Well, welcome everybody, and thank you very much for coming. On behalf of the Elk River Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to welcome you all to our ISD 728 School Board Candidate Forum. John Holton, and I represent the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. I've taken my glasses off so I can actually read my little speech. I'm your moderator for tonight's event. I want to start by thanking the Elk River High School and the theater department for allowing us to use this space and recording equipment for our forum. I'd also like to thank the candidates for being here tonight and help us provide important information to voters before you head to the polls. Tonight's event is being recorded live, and it will be available on the Chamber's website and on social media channels. The Elk River Chamber this is my canned piece. The Elk River Chamber does not assume any party affiliation, nor do we endorse any candidate. We're hosting the forum to provide information about the candidates to the public. Since this is a public information forum and not a campaign event, we respectively request that all candidates and audience members refrain from applause or comments that could cause any disruption during the forum. I'm joined tonight by Melissa, who will be our timekeeper, who's also a member of the Chamber's Board of Government Relations Committee. She'll be the timekeeper and will provide you with a signal when you have 30 seconds to wrap up your thoughts or comment. When you see the red signal, there it is. Fancy, huh? When you see the red signal, that means that you've gone over the time limit and should stop immediately. Each candidate will answer the same questions. I'll rotate the order of who answers the question first, second, etc. Each question has an allocated amount of time, which I will announce when we ask the questions. If there are questions, I'm sorry, I was about to say if there's questions from the floor, there's a process for having that happen, but we simply are not going to have time for any floor questions. And I will say that the couple of questions I saw before the event, I believe, will be answered by the questions that we've prepared. So hopefully everybody will have all of your questions answered by our candidates tonight. Once again, this is a candidate forum. This is not a campaign event. And we are asking that everybody please hold any comment, any reaction, any applause. This has to be an orderly event, or it simply doesn't provide value to the public. So please be respectful of those around you, be respectful of the candidates up here on the platform, and hopefully you'll find this to be a very valuable evening. That having been said, first question, and you'll have 2 minutes to answer this. Introduce yourself and describe the impact you seek to make during your term on the school board, considering its statutory scope and requirements. Specifically, what do you understand your role as an individual board member to be versus the role of staff, superintendent, and students/families? You'll have 2 minutes to answer this question. I will repeat the question as we go down the line. I'm going to go straight down the line, starting with closest to me. So Mike, that question goes to you.
Thank you. My name is Mike Nordis. I have a daughter that goes to Prairie View Middle School, which she's the reason I'm running. I want to make things better for her and for all your children out there. I am the candidate who's running for positive change. I want the board to take more of its power back from the administration. I want to focus our resources on the classroom and academics and ensure that our schools are safe. And I want to bring back more transparency to the board and governance and the way we operate. I have experience in strategic planning and working with grants and budgets. I was a principal planner for the state of Minnesota for a while, so I've done a lot with planning and looking at how to spend money in gaps. As far as my role on the board, I think my role as a board member is to represent the community's voice. It's not to do day-to-day governance, that's the administration, but it's to set the vision and the guidance for where the board is to take you. So not the board, the administration. So we are to set the priorities, represent the people who elect us, and make sure that the administration is running our schools and our district in a way that fits the community needs. Thank you.
Shane, question is to you. Do you need to hear the question again?
No, thank you. Shane Steinbrecker, born and raised in Nowthen, went through Elk River Public Schools, graduated from this building right here, class of 99. I know that seems like an eternity ago, but chose to live in Zimmerman with my wife, Carrie. This is where we run our business. This is where we've raised our family. This is where our family farm is. We have 3 kids. I'm embedded in this community. I have been my entire life. We are part of community events. Day of the Dozers is one of the most recent ones we did, and we've been part of many other things throughout the community. I served on this school board for 12 years through 2022. Many things I've done on that time in the board. When I look at the role of the school board, I think the role of the school board is to hire the superintendent, help set his goals, evaluate him, and write policy. I believe the school board acts from a visionary level. Thank you.
Monica.
All right. Hello, my name is Monica, and thank you, John, for emceeing tonight and for the Chamber for hosting. I am a resident of Otsego. I was raised in Otsego and also a graduate of this high school here in 2001. My siblings and I were very involved with the hockey program, and I feel invested in this community because I decided to come back and raise my children here after traveling the world in college, as well as being a teacher in rural Alaska. So I am a former full-time public school teacher, and currently I am a substitute teacher here in ISD 728. The last year, my goal was to reach, to get into every school and put my feet into the, stand in the footsteps of the teachers within the classrooms and see what the environment was like in each school, and I saw some great things and also some eye-opening things as well. So I would like to bring an educator's viewpoint to the table and become the voice for 728 families if I become a member of the school board.
Okay, thank you, Monica. Question's going to go to Joel. I am going to read it again. It's been a few minutes, so introduce yourself and describe the impact you seek to make during your term on the school board, considering its statutory scope and requirements. Specifically, what do you understand your role as an individual board member to be versus the role of staff, superintendent, and students/families? You have 2 minutes, and it's to Joel.
Years ago, I ran for school board because I didn't like some of the decisions that were being made. I wrote a letter to the editor, it got published, and people encouraged me to run, and I got elected. And I never given up on those convictions. I still try to speak for the common individual in our community, but I've learned a lot about what it takes to run an effective and a highly successful school district. And what it takes is, first of all, strong leadership. Decisions need to be made for the whole district, that people in different ways, based on your family situation, it affects you differently. And that's difficult to make those decisions, but that's part of strong leadership. Safety is a big concern for me. I really feel that we should look hard at getting an SRO, which is a school resource officer, in every one of our schools. We all hear about things, the shootings that go on in schools, those kinds of things. I would like to see us be proactive on that and help our students and our teachers and our administration succeed on that. Collaboration, I think, is huge between the board, the administration, and the teachers. For our students to succeed, that's what it's going to take. Integrity is a big part of my life and my character, and I want my legacy to be someone who's known in the community as above reproach. I'm conservative in my spending and in my tax dollars and my politics and in my personal life. And I strive to ask more questions than provide answers. Seeking to understand before being understood is how I like to approach difficult decisions that I have to make.
Thank you. Question goes to Sherry.
Sherry Knipp, and I'm running for one of the 3 seats open on the Elk River School Board. I'd like to thank the City Council, the Chamber, for hosting this event.
That's okay, we appreciate it. We don't mind being confused with the city council.
Right, I understand, sorry. So I'm getting involved because I just recently moved into this area, and my grandchildren are entering into the Elk River School District. I felt this was a way that I could get involved with their education and with their life and be closer to them. My priorities are to open up communication with the families, with the parents, to have more back and forth so that parents are able to get more involved and we get more comments. Safety is another one. I think there's a lot of things happening that we need to look at some changes to help protect our kids. Establishing consistent methods for tracking progress, for tracking how the kids are doing, and then working with the finance people to make sure that we save money, that we're not spending too much money, wasting money anyway. And I think the school board members are elected by the community to represent them and ensure the school district is responsive to the values and priorities of the community. The school district is an institution, but it's similar to a business, and in that way, the school board needs to work with the experts and collaborate and make sure that they are staying on track to follow the vision and what the community is looking for.
Thank you, Sherry. Leah, the question is to you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Leah Colby. I've been a resident of this community for over 20 years. I have a student at the Rogers High School, and my oldest son is a 2022 graduate of Rogers High School. As a business owner, we have given back to our schools over the last 20 years by sponsoring sporting teams, DECA, dance, theater, and scholarships. I've been a member of the Rhodes Education Foundation, which raises money for grants for schools and scholarships for students. I have a listen and learn and a server personality, and I really wanted to take that whole process another level by serving on the school board and representing again our communities, but most importantly our students, what's best for our students by listening to the expert teachers, administrators, paras, people that work with our kids on a daily basis. I've had some pretty heartfelt conversations this last month with community members, struggling teachers, parents, and students, and one of my other priorities is to figure out a better pathway for communicating decisions and decision processes with our ISD community. If elected, I look forward to working with our administration and expert teachers, and as a school board member, I understand, again, we are taking feedback from a variety of people, whether it's students, again, parents, positive community members, and giving that information to our superintendent so that they can distribute that information to the over 2,000 employees that we have, over 20 schools in our district, again, and give the best results for our over 13,000 students. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Second question. Being elected in a nonpartisan role of school board member, how will you support collective decisions made by the board that you personally disagree with? Again, being elected in a nonpartisan role of school board member, how will you support collective decisions made by the board that you personally disagree with? This question will start with Shane. You have 2 minutes.
Oh, there we go. So by starters, I don't align with either party, and I've taken no donations or anything from either party. So when making decisions, I make decisions based on students and what is best for our students, how to keep them safe, what is the best education for them. And in times in the past, I've had to make decisions that maybe weren't the best for my students in their exact setting in that school, but it represented students as a whole. Those are hard decisions, but I believe when you're elected to the board, you have to look above and beyond yourself. You have to look at the district as a whole. You have to make those tough decisions. You have to have the facts. You have to push the superintendent and the cabinet to provide the facts so you can make informed decisions. You have to make the hard decisions, stand behind them, and honestly, you shouldn't answer to either party for making decisions that benefit all students.
Thank you, Shane. Monica.
Can you repeat the question?
Being elected to a nonpartisan role of school board member, how will you support collective decisions made by the board that you personally disagree with? How will you support collective decisions made by the board that you personally disagree with?
I would collaborate with the board and discuss different viewpoints, because I believe that as board members that are elected, everyone should bring their own opinions to the table, and then after collaborating and discussing, overall choosing what is best for all students and respecting others' decisions as well, and then moving on after the vote. So,
Thank you. Joel?
I like the way the question is phrased, because I really feel that being a school board member is a non-partisan or a non-political position, and it's very important that we look at what's best for our students and our teachers and our administration, because they all got to work together, and that collaboration is very important. I've sat on the board where I've disagreed with board members and had some good discussion with them at the board table, around the board table, even afterwards, asking them why they voted yes or why they voted no, because I think that's important for me to understand their perspective. I always feel like I'm there to represent my whole community, so I want to make sure that when we make a decision, whether or not I agree with it or not, or whether or not it agrees with some of my friends who are in the community who will come to me at the grocery store and say, why did you make that decision? I'll have an answer for them based on what I know what the board did, which is what is best for the whole of the district. That gets to be very difficult in a leadership position, because you want to do what's best for your friends, but you got to do what's best for the whole. So that's a struggle that we always have. But I really firmly believe that as a board, when we make a decision, we got to stand by that decision and move on from that. And if things need to change from that decision further down the road, there's opportunities to do that. But a collaborating board is what's going to succeed and what's going to help our students succeed in the community.
Thank you, Joel. Sherry?
Well, I feel that if you're involved in the decision making, you have to look at what the majority wants and what your community is looking at. And you have to look at if those options are going to help and support reaching your goal. That's going to be a big factor in making a decision. But it is a democracy. So if all of the board chooses a decision, then I'll respect that decision. I might discuss it. I might ask questions. I might not be too follow it.
Thank you, Sherry. Leah?
There we go. First, I want to applaud the school board members that have been on the board the last 4 years for making some incredibly difficult and painful decisions, and not easy decisions that not everybody agreed with. But echoing some of what I've already heard from Shane and Joel, again, and Monica, it is a board that we have to learn to come together and take out any sort of political agenda. And having a political agenda, it does nobody any service, any good. If I get elected to the board again, I want to serve with empathy and compassion and kindness, and that shouldn't be a political agenda. At the end of the day, yes, we have to answer to our community members, but it is about the students. It is about our kids, and that is what is most important, is, again, what is best for our kids.
Thank you. And to Mike.
Yes. So I am recommended by local politicians. It's a recommendation, not an endorsement. It means there's no strings attached. They're not expecting anything from me. There's no political ties to it all. They recommend me because they know I will represent our community. Now be aware that there's also endorsements out there, and an endorsement would imply something wanted back. So it's more than just political sometimes. There's entities that pour lots of money into these school board races. Unions are one of them. So be careful on endorsements that they're not representing Educate Minnesota, that they're representing the community. First point. Second point is, yes, working with the board, it seems obvious. I'm not going to always agree with everyone else's opinions. I will stand my ground, and I'll say when I disagree. If I am voted down my idea isn't the way the board goes with, I will not stand in the way of moving forward in progress. I will not go out and say that I agree with everything the board does. I'm going to be my own person, represent my constituents. So I will say if I disagreed with an action or something they took and why. It doesn't mean that I'll stop it or throw roadblocks up. I will support the decision and work to move forward for the best interests of our community as part of the board and team.
Thank you, Mike. The next question involves facilities. I'm going to go all the way down, and the question is going to go to Leah first. District 728 has worked to forecast ever-evolving enrollment changes throughout the district. Currently, some facilities are underutilized, some are overutilized. Do you have ideas to help mitigate and manage capacities for district facilities and comply with laws while addressing the concerns parents have when boundary lines change? That's complex, so I'm going to read it again. District 728 has worked to forecast ever-evolving enrollment changes throughout the district. Currently, some facilities are underutilized and some are overutilized. Do you have ideas to help mitigate and manage capacities for district facilities and comply with laws while addressing the concerns parents have when boundary lines change? You have 2 minutes to answer.
Thank you, and that's a pretty heated conversations I've been having the last 3 weeks, and I have, again, thank you to all that have responded and made me smarter. To maximize our facilities, again, we have to figure out if we can use what we have and minimize additional taxpayer burdens. To come back with another referendum and ask to build a new school, and we have schools that are at 65% capacity, we have to, again, look at the ability to utilize our existing buildings and not pass on additional expenses to our taxpayers. I think most of us can agree that we need to have better services and facilities for our level 4 students. And I also empathize with parents who don't want their children to be transferred to another school. So in Rogers and Otsego, we have successfully done a 5th grade to middle school transition. And again, getting back to transparency that I hear a lot from parents and a lot from teachers, outlining the details of what has been done, how the transition will work, is key to the success of repurposing schools if that turns out to be our best option. But as a new board member, again, I don't know what else has been discussed. I don't know what other things have been on the table. And my job on a school board, again, is to ask those questions and make sure that we flushed out all the possibilities.
Thank you, Leah. Monica, facilities. And if anyone needs to hear this question again, just say so.
Is it working? There we go. I had seen on social media many parents this last spring that were concerned about the repurposing of the elementary school and the middle school, or the 5th graders moving up to the middle school, and hearing the parents. And I also did hear some teachers that were also upset about some of the things that were happening and being proposed, but were unable to speak about it publicly. And so I just feel like if we were to make a decision, we would need to get all the facts and figure out the best way to have the least amount of impact on the students for changing, but also supporting the special ed level 4 students as well. And when it gets brought up back in January, we can have more information and make a decision from there.
Thank you, Monica. Joel.
Well, our school district is very good at forecasting, and the numbers guy, Dr. Joe Stangler, is incredible, and he's right on, spot on every time that we come together. COVID threw him a curveball, but he's right back on track, and we are growing in the southern part of our district. So because of that, the board purchased 2 pieces of property this last year to accommodate for that growth, which we know is coming and is going to continue to come. The struggles that we're having right now is in the center part of our district in Elk River, where we're sitting right now. Some of our schools are at 65% capacity. Strong leadership says we need to make a change to help solve some of those problems. It's not easy, and people's lives are at stake, at risk, because of their children possibly being moved. Boundary lines are an incredibly difficult thing to move in our district. Everybody is very concerned about those kinds of things. My kids, when they were in school, had to change schools because of boundary line changes. I had to help them through that. We also have a very natural barrier called the Mississippi River, which becomes quite a barrier for our district. So we have to work within the confines of that as well. But I would say that boundary lines are probably the most difficult thing for us to change, and repurposing schools is also very difficult, but sometimes needs to be done. And I trust our administration to come with all of the facts and all of the knowledge that we need to make a decision, and then as a school board having those tough conversations and making that decision which is best for our entire district.
Thank you. Shane.
When you look at capacity, it is extremely difficult, as other members have said. You have to be financially responsible with taxpayers' dollars, and having buildings that aren't full is not financially responsible. The district has done a phenomenal job of forecasting. They have met with city, county, developers the last 5 to 8 to probably 10 years. They've done a phenomenal job of understanding the growth coming in and nailed it just about every single time, especially in the south, which when you see the growth down there is amazing that they can get that hit the way it is. Up here in the central, schools are definitely below capacity. On the north end, they're kind of holding with small growth. I would support a level 4 facility. I got to tour and see staff and things that happened to them, and I got to see some of our students that needed a level 4 facility and what they were doing, and it was not an appropriate place for them to be in the building. Where that exactly goes and looks like, I don't know, but a level 4 facility in a district this size would be what is best for those students, and it would protect and keep our staff safe.
Thank you, Shane. Mike.
So the school repurposing that just went on is a perfect example of an opportunity we have to improve in our transparency and our committee structure. The outcry, as much as I hear that we listen to the community and there is steps they take and take parental input and educator input, there was an outcry when that came through, which tells me that there was a greater need for transparency in how this worked. I think part of it is realizing a few things, is that we need to know what our committees are working on. They should be open to the public so we can attend meetings that so we know who's on it, what they're working on, why these decisions are being made before they're presented. Board members should be on these committees so that they can bring back to the board. Each board member is on a committee, or an advisory board would be better. They can bring back to the overall board to keep them apprised of what's going on. Because what happened was the committee, who is not elected, came to the administration, who presented one package to the board, and their only choice was which school to close. Okay? What they needed was more information from the committee and from the administration. What part of the setting level 4 aren't we meeting? What laws aren't we meeting? How many children is this going to affect? Not only how many children are level 4 that we need, are there any that should be level 4 that aren't, and how many families are there going to be in this? What's the financial impact of it? Some of these questions weren't asked, or some of the questions were, some of them weren't, but the administration didn't always have the answers right away, and there's been seen as a bad thing to table things and wait for more administration. Now, yes, you have to make tough decisions, but if you can't get the information to make these decisions at the table, then you need the administration to go back and get you the answers so that you're comfortable making those decisions. So, with the repurposing in the facilities, I'm not really for closing a school at this time because we have Rogers High School over capacity in 2 years. We have high schools with Prairie View Elementary that's,
Sorry, Mike. Timed out. Thank you.
That won't be the last time.
Sherry, the question is to you. I sure can. District 728 has worked to forecast ever-evolving enrollment changes throughout the district. Currently, some facilities are underutilized, some are overutilized. Do you have ideas to help mitigate and manage capacities for district facilities and comply with the law while addressing the concerns parents have when boundary lines change?
I agree there's been a lot of uproar on the repurposing of the school. I do agree that there needs to be a separate facility for the level 4 students, but I don't know that it needs to be a whole school. And I think if you're changing boundary lines and you're looking at, I think the parents need to have all of the facts, right? What if you need to build a building compared to moving the boundary lines? Would they rather their kids be bused to a different school, or would they rather their taxes be raised? Those are ways that you can help the parents understand what is going to be best for the community. We are going to need to build new buildings, but if we are not at capacity right now, if we have room for students to move, why are we over capacity in this school and we have space for these kids in these schools? So I think it's a way to present the information to the parents so that they can understand how it affects them, their household, and their kids.
Thank you. Next question is revolving around student enrollment. There seems to be an increase in families within District 728 boundaries choosing options other than Independent School District 728. This directly impacts funding for the district. Is this trend a concern for you, and how would you address it? Let me ask this again. There seems to be an increase in families within the district choosing options other than District 728. What we're getting at with the question is homeschooling, private schooling, to some extent charter schooling, and other options. This directly impacts funding for the district. Is this trend a concern for you, and how would you address it? I want to start this one with Joel.
It doesn't concern me. I think competition is good. And I think if certain kids do better in a charter school or in a homeschool situation or a private school situation, that's the parent's decision, and I would support that 100%. I think it's a way for us to educate everybody in our community. Not all kids learn the same way. I think that's a decision that parents need to make between them and their kids. And I don't think it's a family basis, it's per student. You may have one kid from your family that wants to attend public school. You might have another one that wants to attend a charter school, another one that may need to be homeschooled. I think that's a parent's decision, and I support that. And it doesn't bother me. I know that PSEO takes some money away from our school district when kids choose to go to college, and I think that's a good thing because they're saving their parents money by having the state pay for some of those college credits. So I think competition is good. It's good for our school district. It's good for our charter schools. It's good for our private schools, and it gives people options on what is best for their family.
Thank you. Sherry, same question.
I would be very concerned with the downward trend if that kept happening. I think that if people are pulling their kids out of the public school system, we need to talk to those parents. We need to talk to the other schools. We need to find out what they're providing that we aren't. We need to learn how to adjust and address what those parents want. I think that's the biggest thing. We need to stop the kids from leaving the public schools.
Thank you. Shane.
I think healthy choice is good. I think having all those schools here and parents get to choose what is best for their individual child is what's best for them, and I would support that. I think there's things that the private sector schools can do that we can't do in public schools, and if that benefits a child, then so be it. I think the healthy competition is good. Even with these schools coming in, the growth in ISD 728 is continuing to grow. Yes, we still need to be competitive. We need to look at what we're doing. Are we preparing students for the next step and the skills in the real world? But if there's private sector schools, whatever those might look like, are available and it's what's best for that student, I would say that family needs to do what's best for them. The PSEO program came up, right? That takes dollars directly from our district. However, if that prepares a student to go into the workforce and to not have a lot of overhead debt and it benefits them, I support that 100%.
Thank you. Mike?
Still on? So it is very concerning to me if we have parents pulling their children from school, whether it be to homeschool or do something else, for a few reasons. One, there's money associated with each student, and as we lose students, we lose revenue. And I've been told that we're going to be operating within a deficit within a few years already. So if we continue this trend of losing students, it's just going to make it harder to accomplish some of the things we want. Two, it's the underlying antecedents behind why they're pulling their children or why their children aren't going to public schools. There's got to be a few reasons. One, I'm guessing that they feel they can get better academics or better college readiness someplace else, that their kids are going to learn to read and write and do their arithmetic better someplace else, possibly. Maybe they're not feeling heard. Maybe they are not happy with the transparency. Maybe they don't feel safe sending their kids to the schools anymore. Doesn't matter what the antecedents is, it needs to be addressed because these concerns are valid. These are members of our community, and if they're pulling their children from our schools for one of these reasons, we need to fix it.
Thank you, Mike. Let's go all the way down to Leah.
Thank you. I agree with a lot of what's been said at the board level here at the table tonight. I do think healthy choice is an option. I think it's the right of the families to decide what's best for their child and the learning environment that's going to make their child grow and thrive. But I do think we need to revisit a conversation I had too with some teachers where 15 years ago you could not get a job in the public school system. It was such a high demand job, and now we can't retain and we can't attract people into our school systems and our public school systems. So I'd like to find out, maybe as a board member, how do we retain good teachers? How do we attract good teachers? Whether it's pay, whether it's support, again, creating safe environments for our teachers and our students. I would, again, as a new board member, explore why we're having these shortages and how we continue to support the teachers and the great teachers that we have.
Thank you. Monica?
All right. So lots of great ideas already spoken. I believe that parent choice is important and that families know best what is best for their students and their family. I did notice that with COVID, it sparked uprise in homeschool families. And then also just last week when I was door knocking, I met with a mother who she shared a story with me that she pulled her middle school 5th grader from Prairie View because she felt that her child was not ready to grow up as quickly and be in the middle school setting. And then as well, she had an older student who was reading books that her family didn't agree with. So having the choices and making the public school competitive with, and then also this week with a lot of safety concerns with threats that are happening. A lot of kids leave in the morning and say to their parents that they're concerned about their safety. So being competitive and fixing some issues can help keep more students in our public schools.
Thanks, Monica. Next question is regarding budget and spending. One critical responsibility of the school board is to manage the district's $254 million general fund budget. Approximately 80% of the school district's budget is personnel related. What is your budget philosophy, and how will you practically manage the budget considering rapidly rising costs, additional mandates from the state and federal government, and the impact of inflation on taxpayers and businesses? I'm going to read that one again quickly. One critical responsibility of the board is to manage the district's $254 million general fund budget. Around 80% of the school district's budget is personnel related. What is your budget philosophy, and how will you practically manage the budget considering rapidly rising costs, additional mandates from the state and federal government, and the impact of inflation on taxpayers and businesses? You'll have 2 minutes to answer, and let's start with Mike.
So the budget has been one of the things that got me starting to run as a school board. I think that a lot of the money has been misspent by our current board. I think that our taxpayer money has been prioritized on facilities over students. So I would push to reallocate funds from our administrative costs, which have gotten bloated, and prioritize them to going to the classroom, ensuring that our teachers and students have the resources they need. I'd also prioritize making sure that we have all the better class sizes for our teachers, maybe get some paraprofessionals, demand transparent, detailed budgets. When the budget comes out, there's line item costs, but there's not a lot of detail. I'd like a board member to sit on the finance committee to be able to ask some questions. I'd like to have the guidance with the administration to maybe shift the way their focus is and say, we need to make class sizes a priority. We need to make academics a priority. So let's see if we can focus some of that money away from administrative costs and focus it directly to classroom, because that's how we're going to close the gaps and increase proficiencies and accomplish better education.
Thank you. Shane.
School board finance is complicated. The first 4 years on the board, when I was down at the state level to understand how our funding comes, what it looks like, and then how you can use it and it can be allocated. So out of this $254 million, 80% of it is people, but how much of it is earmarked for other things that we don't get to touch or use? Must be done in this manner. And then when the state says they're fully funding schools, and ISD 728 didn't take all $3 million because some of that money had coattails to it that didn't make sense. So you have to try to understand all that. How do you do that? You do that by having a good business department. I believe ISD 728 business department is second to none. They have awards for that. They are very transparent. They are very good with their money and what they do with it. And they fully understand what's needed. 5, 6, 7 years ago, there was time for reductions. They went through, evaluated, and did $10 million in cuts. It was hard. It was difficult. People lost jobs. But it was the right thing to do, and it needed to be done. When you really understand the school finances, there's not a lot that you have authority over and control of. We talked about some level 4 stuff. So special education is one that is not fully funded, but yet if you have an IEP and it requires a full-time additional person, you must take that money out of your general fund. You don't have a choice to say no. So I think it is important to have a good business team in place that you can trust. They can bring back recommendations to the board of where reductions can be made, how we can roll out educational services in a more cost-effective manner. Then the board needs to discuss it and give them direction to move forward.
Thank you. Monica.
$254 million seems like a huge budget, and then considering 80% are spent on teachers, I've recently seen that in the past 2 years there's been a lot of new mandates that are passed out in St. Paul, and many of those mandates are not funded or fully funded, which would then also add a bigger strain to the school district budget. Maybe communicating with some of those representatives in St. Paul and seeing if they can hear the voices of the communities that are affected by not funding the mandates that are passed, or maybe even changing some of those mandates could be an option. But what I would like to do is be fiscally responsible on the school board and create a budget that can reallocate some funds and give teachers and the classrooms more resources. And when I asked a teacher what the board could do to help her teach reading, her response was to hire some trained paras to help with those situations, and having a large class size and not enough help, that would be a struggle. So I would have to learn a lot about the budget, but I am willing to learn.
Thank you. Down to Leah.
After talking and listening to people with experience around school budgets, this is one of the most complex challenges to address. I also understand that my experience running a budget for a small private business is way different than running a budget like this, so I know that I have a lot to learn. And understanding, again, that was already mentioned, that sometimes state funding for mandates is only partial, and it's not always a long-term funding option. I also think we need to understand that there's a balance of the diverse needs of our students requiring advanced courses for gifted students, as well as students with disabilities that require staff, require facilities, and experts to help them succeed. So I would look forward to, again, to learn more about how our state and local funding impact and influence our school budget. And I, again, pledge to work with experienced people within our education system who understand the process and make sure that our budget is maximized for the success of our students and our teachers.
Thank you. Let's go to Sherry.
Well, I have been in banking for over 40 years. The position before my current one, I actually was working with the portfolio management group in the US SBA loan department. And I worked with struggling businesses, going over their finances, working to find ways to eliminate expenses and improve their cash flow, restructuring loan payments at times to help with their revenue stream. And I know that the school has a set amount of money coming in, and I know that you've got specific areas that you need to spend the money on. I don't have any real knowledge to give a true answer. I would need to look at the financials. I'd need to look at the mandates that they have coming down and where the money is spent before I could look. But I would love to look and see what we could reduce in spending and what kind of waste there is that we could save this money to go towards teachers, to go towards the tools they need to teach.
Thank you. Joel, the budget question.
Yeah, there's a lot in that and a lot of good information has been shared here. I'll just say that in 2019, we passed a referendum, and part of that referendum was that we would not go back to the taxpayers in 7 to 10 years to ask for more money. And we got a lot of promises in that referendum. That was one of the biggest ones. We've completed almost all of those promises. We continue to work on those until that referendum is done. So I think we've done a great job with the taxpayers' money. One thing that people don't understand in the community is that our school district gets a certain amount of money from the state based on lots of different criteria. It's about $7,000 a year per student. There are districts in our state, they get $18,000 a year per student based on their criteria. That's not a fair analysis. We have to do some of those mandates with less money from the state that other districts don't have to. I think we do a phenomenal job at making those things work with the district, with the budget that we have, with the business and finance people that we have. I've sat in their offices and had discussions with them. They've been in it for 20 years. They're still learning about it. So it's a difficult situation. It's a difficult concept, but I think we've been doing a great job. We asked what it would take to reduce across our district 1 student per classroom. So if, say, our average is 28, to go to 27 students per classroom is $1 million a year. So if we want to cut 10 students in classrooms, that's $10 million that's got to come into our budget somewhere. Those are difficult decisions that we have to look at.
Okay, thank you. Next question revolves around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, referred to as DEIB. DEIB work is a significant topic of discussion across the country. What is your interpretation of DEIB mandates and how the district has included DEIB in the strategic plan? How do you balance personal opinions with state or federal mandates? Once again, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging work is a significant topic of discussion across the country. What is your interpretation of the DEIB mandates and how the district has included DEIB in the strategic plan? How do you balance personal opinions with state or federal mandates? Let's start this one with Monica.
I have looked into some different curriculums, and there is an excellent one called FAIR, F-A-I-R, which stands for Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism. And it's the Be Pro-Human movement, and it means recognizing that we share our humanity with every other person on this planet, and that we are far more alike than we are different, and treating people as unique individuals and not stereotyping them based on group membership. And so the FAIR curriculum would be something that I would like to explore further as an excellent resource to bring to our schools.
Thank you. Shane.
I think it's important that every student that wants to learn at ISD 728 should have the right to be their authentic self. They should be able to show up and have that ability to learn. We should provide skill sets for them. What resources do they need so they can be their authentic self, so they can be successful in life? And I think that is an important role of a public education system, is reassuring that every student has the right to learn, they shouldn't be bullied, and things like that can't happen in our schools. And we need to continue to move in the direction to give them resources so they can be successful, to grow up, and to be a successful part of society.
Thanks. Okay, Mike.
That was a multi-part question there, so I want to make sure I try and answer them all.
Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging work is a significant topic of discussion across the country. What is your interpretation of the DEIB mandates and how the district has included DEIB in their strategic plan? How do you balance personal opinions with state or federal mandates?
Sure. Well, first I want to address the district strategic plan. If you go to the website and you click on the strategic plan link, it's not a strategic plan. You get a 2-page document that has some statements on it that are more virtue signaling statements that you can't measure. It's not a strategic plan. A comprehensive strategic plan outlines multiple categories through achievement in class, through school safety facilities. There's multiple parts of a strategic plan. Now, links to that, there are multiple other plans that the district does have, such as their achievement and integration plan and their America's Best Workforce plan. Those do have some measurable goals in them, but they're not complete. For instance, one that associates with the DEI, which is the topic we're talking about, talks about one goal is to get kids ready for school. Another goal, they say, is to close the gap, which is not a good terminology. And another goal is to have so many kids by 3rd grade reading at proficiencies. One, there's a lot more goals we need to take into account than that. More than reading, there's math and all kinds of things. 2, let's look at the Achievement and Integration Plan, which is the DEI. The plan for this district has been failing. It's gone from 2017 to 2023, and proficiency for students of color dropped from 54.5% to 48.6%. So what we're seeing is a regression, not progress, right? So it's clear that the approach we're taking is not working, and we need to change course. What's concerning now is that this year we aren't looking at, they've changed the wording in their plan to not say we're going to increase the proficiency of the bottom. They said we're going to close the gap. That's an important difference because you can close the gap by lowering the top. And I think that's what we're seeing when we don't see the bottom moving up. So the short of it is, I don't think that we should be dividing children based on their race, gender, or any other identity. We shouldn't tell students they're at a disadvantage because of who they are. I think we should identify those children who need help and get them the help.
Thanks, Mike. Question goes to Sherry.
Well, I'm not very familiar with the mandate, but I do believe that diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging starts before the kids ever get to school. They should learn to accept all people. They should treat people nicely. They should learn that all kids have value. This should be established so that when they do get to school, the teachers are reinforcing this idea rather than teaching it. But I think that it's easy when they're younger to teach them that everybody has a story, everybody has value, everybody's interesting, and they're all equal.
Thank you, Sherry. Joel.
These words and concepts bring emotion to a lot of people, and I think there's some confusion around that's created when these words mean different things to different people. As I looked at this question, I think we're becoming more and more of a diverse community. I talked to realtor friends of mine who are selling houses to people in our community who are of a diverse nature. Some of them are people from war-torn countries like Ukraine, and those kids are coming here and they're struggling to learn the language, let alone maybe live without a mother or father or family. So the diversity of how do we help those kids, what do we do to bring in people who speak that language to help them, that's part of what diversity means to me. Equity means that we provide the same education for every kid across every school in our district. A kid in Zimmerman should not have less of an opportunity for an education than a kid in Rogers. That means whether it's academic or extracurricular, those kinds of things, we try to create as much equity as we can in our district. That's very important to me. Inclusion, we all agree bullying should never be allowed in any of our schools, but we know at times it happens. I take those complaints seriously and work hard to make sure that those parents are supported and able to help their students succeed. I have those conversations with people in the community about their very own child that's struggling with things. And I try my best to help them succeed, give them the right tools and the right avenues to help those bullying situations. And sometimes it's not in school, sometimes it's cyberbullying. And finally, belonging. Everybody wants to have a friend, and everybody wants to be accepted in their community. I was at high school reunion for my wife this past weekend. She graduated from this school district, and it was interesting to watch people decades later that still want to belong and want to connect and want to be a part of the community.
That's time. Thank you. Leah, questions to you?
Yes, and apparently Joel and I were on the same wavelength here because I have my definitions as well. So this is a really personal question for me because I'm a mother in a transracial family via adoption. My boys are black. And the experiences, unfortunately, that we've had in our school system and even in our communities have been less than sometimes positive. We've been very supported by teachers, by paras. My son is on the autism spectrum. So when I look at the definitions, again, I feel the same way that some people have taken these and twisted them to mean different things. To me, again, diversity is the practice or quality of including or involving people from a range of social and ethnic backgrounds, of all different genders and orientations, and this is critical for our students. Equity is being able to figure out what each student needs. It's not treating everybody the same, that's equality, but it's trying to find out what each student needs that's different from anybody else to make sure they have success. And again, that's important for our students. Inclusion, again, is the practice of providing access and opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded. So those would be people who have physical or intellectual disabilities, students from financially challenged homes, or members of other minority groups. And again, our students deserve this. So belonging to, again, is making sure people feel they have a safe space to learn and to thrive. And as a public school system, again, we have to support students in whatever way they show up. We need to support all students to thrive, to grow, and again, be able to contribute to our community as they transition into adulthood.
Thank you. Next question. Preparing students for the workforce. District 728 partners with local businesses and chambers to prepare students for the workforce. What role can the local education system and school board play in ensuring students are prepared for future careers and responsibilities? Let's start this one with Mike.
Sure. So the first thing we have to do to prepare kids for the workforce is we have to strengthen our core academics to ensure that our students are graduating with the necessary skills they need for whatever career path they have, even if that's a career or college. We're hearing across this nation from college professors that when their students are getting to year one, they're having to take remedial courses to catch up with things they didn't learn in high school. We're hearing from people in the business community as well that the people coming in aren't ready yet. So we need to really work on getting the academics, getting our kids caught up. We cannot be graduating kids that can't read and write at grade level, and we are. Our graduation rate hasn't dropped yet. 40% of our students can't read and write at grade level, and 40% can't do their arithmetic at grade level. To get these kids caught up. Doesn't matter why they're behind, if it was COVID or what. We've only been increasing at about 1% a year, then drop 2%, then 1%, so it's been pretty much stagnant. We can't fail a generation on that. The other thing we need to do is we need to start teaching core values. We need to teach self-confidence. I agree with teaching kindness and respect so that they're prepared for when they enter the workforce. There's so much going on now with everyone's worried about everyone's differences and who they are and trying to make everyone agree on everything. That's not realistic, and it's not going to happen when they hit the workforce. What we need to do is say it's okay to be different. We are a melting pot. We have different religions, different cultures, different ideas, different values. We don't all have to agree on those. What we have to do is respect each other. When you get into the workforce, you're going to be expected to perform and respect each other in that. So I think that we have to teach them self-confidence so that they're ready for that and don't need to be affirmed when they get out and into the workforce. They're self-confident in themselves.
Thank you. Let's go all the way back down the table to Leah.
Okay, I'm an Excel spreadsheet nerd, and I spent a fair amount of time going through our most recent results from the state of Minnesota. And yes, there is definitely room for improvement, but I want to address the elephant in the room here is that we had a huge detour in the last 4 years with the pandemic. And I feel that when you look at schools and break them down, I went through elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools and went, wow, we've got some really impressive schools in our district that are doing outstanding, are 80%, 75%. And I don't want to paint our whole entire district as, again, 50, 40, 60%. So I feel that if I have the opportunity on the school board, that I'd like to take a look at some of the schools that are underperforming and saying, hey, what do we need to do differently in those schools? What are they doing right in the schools that are thriving and continuing to grow, and take this huge ship and detour that we took and right this ship up so that we get these kids back on track, whether it's the social, the mental health, and again, of course, the education. How do we get them back on track? Because that was a huge detour. In terms of preparing students for the workforce, again, of course, education is important, but I'm super excited because I've been fortunate to work with students for the last 20 years in my office, where we've had kids. Right now we have a Rogers high school student scribing for our doctors, and I'm very proud that we have converted, if you want to say that, 12 former patients into eye doctors. I'm actually sharing an office with one right now who I started seeing as a 5-year-old. So if I am elected to the board again, I would love to see more community involvement from other businesses to find space and share their passion for what they do to ensure our students, again, have opportunities to find successful careers.
Thank you. Sherry.
This is another area that I feel the home and school need to work together. There's many skills that kids need. Obviously, they need to read and write, and they need to be proficient in these ways. They also need to balance a checkbook. They need to count change. They need to fill out a tax return. They need to do all of those things also. So I think that there could be classes, maybe some type of career-orientated testing to help find out what the kids' skills are, where they're lacking, what they can do, what would encourage the kids to learn a skill or to improve in an area that would help them manage when they're out of high school, right? They have to have these skills when they leave.
Thank you. Monica.
All right. I wanted to share that when I attended a school board work session meeting last spring, it was really neat to witness. There were 4 students there that were sharing their testimonies about the current Career and Technical Education Program, the ETC. It was great to hear that they had success stories and they were sharing feedback with the board about the Pathways Career Program. And so I think that's a wonderful program that we currently offer in our district to the high school students. And then this summer I met an owner of one of our local businesses that hires high school students to get them started on the right foot in his business that works with STEM. And the owner had a huge heart for making a difference in the young people's lives, and then he shared some first-hand experiences that were eye-opening to me. He mentioned how some high school graduates did not have the skills he would have expected them to have, and he often has to start with the very basics before actually getting them started. And so that had me wondering, and I'm also a data person, so I went online and I was looking at some statistics, and I saw that for Elk River High School, the graduation this last year was 91%, and then I looked at the reading proficiency level, which is only at a 51%, and then the math is at a 47%. So there's something that I would need to explore some more and see why the graduation rate is still way up high, and yet students aren't actually passing at a proficient level for reading and math.
Thank you. Joel.
One of the things I'm proud of as a board member is that we started the CTE program, the Career Tech Education Program, while I was on that board. And we've helped a lot of those students succeed at being ready for the workforce when they come out of high school. Some of them are in the workforce while they're in high school. Business owners love that. They love to see that. I believe in it so much that I started a scholarship fund from the school board members that we would put money towards scholarship to help those kids go to those 2-year programs, because I think our world has been so much around a 4-year program, and those are good schools, but sometimes kids need to go to a 2-year program, learn a lot. Some of that CTE stuff helps those kids get on that right foot. We even have businesses who are willing to pay for those students' education because they believe in that so strongly. So I think our CTE program is one of the best in the state. We have great leaders in our administration who are running that, and I'm proud to be a part of starting that in our district.
Thank you. We'll finish this one up with Shane.
CTE is a huge passion of mine. I live it every day. This last weekend at Day of the Dozers, 3, 5, 6-year-old kids, I'm telling them all about it while they're running equipment with me. CTE is very cool because what it is you take juniors, seniors, they're in school for a couple hours a day learning skills, but then they come into the real world and they got to put them skills to work. They got to work with other people in their jobs, customers, vendors, things like that that are extremely important. Teachers do a very good job at teaching skill sets. As business owners, we know what the skills are. So when we partner with our educators and we expect, or I shouldn't say expect, when we show them the skill sets that we need and they can teach them to the student, that is success. It happens a lot. Amy Lord, which is our CTA coordinator, is phenomenal. You go throughout this district at local trucking companies, machine shops, things like that, whether it's culinary arts, you figure out whatever it is that have had these students, they talk about how amazing it is that they can get these students while they're still in school, while they're learning their skills, and put them into work in the real world. And a lot of these students continue on, and that's their pathway for life. Senior strategy is another one. I'm part of that with both my business and my farm. I'll take anywhere from 4 to 6 to 8 students, and we'll take them out for a day. What does it look like to be part of this business? What are the aspects of it? I'll tour local businesses so they can see what a day looks like for me interacting. Same thing at the farm. They get to see that aspect of it. I'm part of the career trade shows. We set our equipment up. So as these young kids are looking at different options, what does this look like? What might it look like to be in this career? So CTE, I am very passionate about it. I think the district does a good job, and I would continue to push the board to work more at it.
And that's time. Thank you, Shane. Did I get everybody on that one, or did I miss somebody? I think I got everybody on that one. Okay. This is our last prepared question, and it involves leadership transition. Dr. Bittman has announced his retirement. The current board will select his successor. How can you, as a board member, constructively support the success of our next superintendent? So again, Dr. Bittman has announced his retirement. The current board will select his successor. How can you, as a board member, constructively support the success of the next superintendent? I'm going to start down here with Mike, and we'll just go right down the row.
Sure. Well, it's a little disappointing to me that the board chose to push through hiring a new superintendent with a new board coming on. I would have hoped that we could have taken a route of doing an interim superintendent to get through the transition process. It's important that the leadership and the board be aligned. I'll be able to work with whatever board member is hired. I'm looking forward to, or with whatever superintendent is hired. I'm looking forward to doing that. The one thing I want is to ensure that whatever the new leadership is, they need to align with the board's vision. So it's the board, again, who sets the vision, not the superintendent. So whoever we pick, I hope will share the vision of focusing on academic excellence, improving safety in our schools, and increasing transparency in the board. Some of these ideas that I've been running my platform on is the direction that I'm going to push, that we go, and that's the vision that I will be taking the district with the rest of the board if they agree with me. So I see this leadership transition as an opportunity to bring some fresh perspectives. So I think it can be a good thing, and I hope that our core mission will be educating our children.
Thank you. Shane.
First, I want to take a moment and thank Dr. Bittman for all his work. He was an amazing leader. He did a lot of things for ISD 728, and he set us up to be successful. Second, I trust the board and their process they're going through. I'm excited for the candidates that they have to interview, and I trust they will make the best decision that aligns with ISD 728. And I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to sit down with a new board, a new superintendent, and understand what the vision looks like, collaborating, hearing from each board member. I will come to the table with no axe to grind. I will come to listen, learn, and collaborate as a board. And then once we agree on one unified vision, I think it will be exciting to see what we can do next year in ISD 728.
Thank you, Shane. Monica.
All right. I look forward to watching the hiring process and see who is chosen as our new superintendent. It would be great to start the new year in January with many new faces, and I'm sure whoever is on the board would help transition and welcome this new superintendent to our school district and our community, and work together to have one vision as well.
Well, I was a part of the hiring process 7 years ago when we hired Dr. Bittman, and his leadership has brought us through the most difficult season of our school district. When we went through COVID, he was a leader, not only in our district, but in our community. He brought our community together and pooled resources, pooled manpower, pooled information. He was extremely, extremely valuable in our community, and I'm very proud to have worked alongside of him and have seen the great work that he has done. Our new superintendent will need a new set of skills. Leading a team of highly efficient leaders. Dr. Bittman has put together a strong team of leaders who are leaders in their industry and leaders in their particular field. That leader is going to have to be a leader among leaders. He's going to have to work with new board members. He's going to have to work with a highly efficient, very educated group of leaders in his district. So that person is going to take a lot of skill to lead our district into the next 4, 8, 10, 12 years. I'm excited to be a part of that process. This is a very taxing week. We had a board meeting yesterday. We have this tonight. We have interviews tomorrow. We have interviews on Thursday. And we have interviews, a second round of interviews next week. So appreciate your help and concern as we walk through this to do what's best for our community.
Thank you. Sherry.
In my experience, change in leadership is constant at all levels. And I think needs to be a little bit of time where everybody gets to know each other, their communication styles, their work habits, and things like that. But you have to move quickly to become a cohesive team that works together to reach the goals that are set. So I think work together.
Thank you. Leah, you'll finish this one.
Yes. I'm also glad, I think, that the current board is selecting a superintendent because they understand the qualities, they understand the skill set of somebody, again, who can take the baton from Dr. Bittman and take us to another level. There's going to be a lot of change at the school board level, potentially, and again, finding somebody who's able to handle new personalities, new ideas, input from positive community members, our teachers, again, our students, and be able to carry on some of the visions that have been established by the school board already. So, thank you.
Thank you. Now, before we wrap up, this is where I'm going to give Debbie fits and go completely off script here. First, I'd like to thank every one of you for coming, and I want to thank you for being a very, very respectful audience. Everyone up here appreciates that. I appreciate that, and you've set a wonderful example for every child in School District 728. So thank you very much for the respect that you've shown. I want to thank Debbie, who's our exec from the chamber, who makes sure these kinds of events happen. I think they're important, and Debbie does a wonderful job of making sure that they occur. And I want to thank our timekeeper, Melissa Firmoil, down at the end. And we have done well on time tonight, so I'm going to ask each candidate, before we thank them for their participation, I'm going to go right down the line, starting with Leah, and give you all 1 minute to make a closing statement. It is your topic. It is your statement. You have 1 minute, Leah.
I used to be an auctioneer in my previous lifetime, so let's see how this goes here. With the detour, again, our kids took during the pandemic, I feel very strongly about reestablishing the community's trust in the experts that care for our kids on a daily basis, the teachers, the paras, the kitchen team, the groundskeepers, the transportation, the receptionists, the principals, and our administrators. 60% of our teachers have a master's degree. They know what they're doing. With Schoology, parents have access to curriculum every day. And if you don't like what you see, you can opt out. We have access to our grades on a minute-by-minute basis with the Infinite Campus program. And those are tools of transparency, again, that parents have access to. These are, if I get elected, I hope to work together with other board members, the new superintendent, parents, and positive community supporters to work through these difficult facility conversations. I also look forward to learning about the best ways to spend money to support high-achieving students in between, and students with disabilities. I'm a listener and I'm a learner, and I'm also humble enough to recognize that I'm on the learning end of this journey.
And that's
Thank
time.
You.
Thank you, Leah. Sherry, 1 minute.
Well, I want to say there's been a lot of talk about the three of us being a slate, like-minded, like we're puppets, and we're not. We're three individuals that came together, and we didn't even know each other until we all jumped on board for school board. We all have different ideas. We all have different opinions. We've learned very quickly to come together, to compromise, to talk and discuss, to reach a mutual goal. And I feel that that's exactly what is needed in the school board. When change is needed, it can be beneficial to bring in new people with new skills, new perspectives, and new ideas. These are things that I feel the three of us will bring to this school board.
Thank you. Joel.
I have a friend of mine who always encourages me to have a question to answer ratio, ask more questions and have answers. And I've tried to do that, instill that in a lot of what I do on a school board level. And another friend of mine said to me, seek to understand before being understood. So my role as a school board member is always to ask those questions and seek the input from lots of different people before I make a decision, not walk into a situation with my mind already made up. That's helped me and served me very well, and I've watched other people take that on as a challenge to make sure that they don't come in with an agenda and push their agenda, but they actually listen to what other people are saying and make a decision for what's best for our community.
Thank you. Monica, 60 seconds.
All right. Academic performance, board transparency, and student safety are my top priorities. I want every student to succeed and every teacher to be fully supported with the resources needed to allow our future generation to thrive. By truly creating community representation and addressing school safety, we can begin to change the classroom setting, which then provides opportunities for academic performance. This is a team approach involving community, students, teachers, and parents. This is why I'm pro-parent and pro-teacher with student success as my #1 priority. Thank you.
Shane, 60 seconds.
Thank you for coming, John. Thank you for moderating. Appreciate it. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what we can do together, how we can unite the community, how we can build forward with our students. I support our staff. I support our curriculum specialists. I support our teachers. I support ISD 728, the amazing things we're doing, and I'm excited to look forward, to look ahead, how we can even do a better job to prepare our students for the skills they need to be successful in the real world.
Thank you. Last, Mike, you have 60 seconds.
Thank you. So I have been attending board meetings for a while now and listening to community members, and I do have a plan for things I'd like to change right away and as soon as possible. I want to do a full access to detailed and accurate curriculum online. Schoology has different logins for parents and students, and you just don't have a detailed curriculum. I want a zero tolerance policy for violence and bullying. I've heard too many kids getting hurt in our schools. I want to reinstate recorded meetings, policy 206, so everybody knows what community members have to say at the board meetings, both work sessions and board meetings. I want to review our safety policy. I want to reinstate an advisory board structure that the board members are sitting on rather than a committee structure. Something that's recommended by the Minnesota School Board Association that we don't have a set up in accordance with them. And then I want to take a good look at our strategic plan and make sure it's comprehensive so that it's accomplishing all aspects of what we need to accomplish over the next 3 years. Thanks.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the Elk River Area Chamber, I want to thank you all for coming. I'd like to thank all of our candidates. Everyone, I think, did a very wonderful job of sharing your ideas. Thank you very much.